Talk with Bariledum is a channel to, to inform people, to educate people, and to enlighten people on things they need to do regarding the Bible and life. Welcome to another edition of Talk with Bariledum. I must tell you, I've been enjoying our talks so far, and I want to appreciate every one of you that have been coming to meet with me and for us to learn together. So as usual, we are gonna introduce ourselves as usual. So today, before we introduce ourselves, we have our special guest. I'm gonna tell you about him, probably his name for today. So my name is Oere Bariledum Prosper. Let me start with my immediate left.
Okay, my name is Jadua Giraffe James.
I am by name James Kitaka. I am from Tarawa State.
So my own name is Yakubu Emmanuel Oluwagbotim.
My name still remains Ademeso Emmanuel.
I'm by name Zaki Samson from Nasarawa State.
Thank you so much for being faithful to this talk with Bariledum. I can see that some of you have been coming for since we started this new edition. So with us today we have missionary Daniel Lang. Is one of the pastor of Truth Baptist Church. So he is our special guest today. And one thing that I have that have bothered me and also interests me is the issue of music. Today we'll be talking about music. Recently there's this lovely hymn that we sing in our church. We all know the hymn. It is called I Have Decided to Follow Jesus. In fact, the hymn has a story of, so a missionary went to India and then preached the gospel. A man received the gospel, and then the people were not happy, and then they wanted to kill him, and they threatened him. They killed the children, the wife, and yet they did not give up. And that was how the song came about. And because of that, they killed him and killed the family. And because of that, that led to the salvation of the chief of that community, or one or somebody from that community. But today that we now had another version of that song. So, and this song they played it in churches, and even in club, and it bothers me a lot. So today we want to look at music, and we also look at what is music, what kind of music should a Christian listen to, and also why should a Christian care about music. We'll also look at purpose for choosing a gospel music, and then we'll look at what music should and should not be. So I was in one of the youth program, True Baptist Church youth program, and I had Daniel Lang was teaching about music. I said, "Wow, this is what I've been looking for." So today, I'm happy that you are around to tell us about it. So, will you want to tell us what is music and what kind of music should a Christian listen to? Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be a part. I think was it last year, the year before, we had a similar program in the
Yeah.
church library, and I think I spoke on stewardship, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful for the opportunity to be a part. I have a pastor friend in the U.S. who he actually has written a book about some different issues that believers face in the 21st century. And one of the topics that he writes about is music. And so I'm actually going to use some of his notes. He's compiled them in a way that I could not compile them on paper, but it's a way that I think can really help us understand. So, what is music? What was the other part of the question? Which type?
Yeah. What kind of music should a Christian listen to?
What kind of music should a Christian listen to? And I always like to, especially in teaching on music, the Bible never clearly states, it does not name music groups and say you should listen to this one and you should not listen to that one. In fact, even some different musical instruments, the Bible does not always state you should definitely use and listen to this instrument and you should definitely not use and listen to that instrument. So I think when we're dealing with music, we need to make sure we look at biblical principles. So as the question was asked, what is music and what type of music should a believer listen to? Again, I think we go and we make our decisions about music based on biblical principles. But first, before we can understand biblical principles, we have to understand music is important.
Yeah.
And I think that's a choice that every believer has to make. Music is not, I mean, we know in heaven there's going to be plenty of music. There already is music. And so that means for all of eternity, music is and will definitely continue to be very important. So on just that merit alone, the fact that it's in heaven and it's used to worship God, I think every Christian needs to take a decision that music is important, so therefore I need to understand and learn about it. But what is music? Obviously, we could go into many different things, and I'm not a musician. In fact, most of us here are probably a better musician than I am. So I'm not going to teach you how to lead singing and sing notes. But I will say a few things about music. I believe music is God's gift to reflect his glory. Obviously,
Amen.
there are definitions we could use, but we believe God is the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. I think music belongs to God as well. He created it,
Amen.
and so I think we can use that as a definition. Music is God's gift to reflect his glory.
Yeah.
And if that is our definition, I think that will change the way we view music.
Yeah.
Because many of us, and myself included at times in my life, we have viewed music as an entertainment tool. Now, I'm not saying that music can never be entertaining. There's probably times music can be a little entertaining. It should never be wrong. And we'll learn more about which music in a few moments. But we know God himself delights in songs that honor him. You see, we like songs that honor us.
Yeah.
And again, if you sing a song to honor somebody, I'm not saying that's wrong, but overall, music is to be used. Ephesians 5:19 tells us that we're making melody to the Lord, right?
Yeah.
It's not making melody to the pastor or to the other person. We're making melody to the Lord, the King of Kings himself. So what is music? I would just say it's God's gift to reflect his glory. And again, there are many other definitions we could use. And then which music should a Christian listen to? If you come to me, I'll definitely give you my opinion.
Yeah.
If you want to ask, here are two groups, Christian groups. Which one should I listen to? If I know the groups, I would probably tell you my opinion. But we should not develop a whole doctrine based on my opinion or your opinion. So I want to give a three-way purpose for choosing godly music. And this, whenever I teach, I want to show you how to discern for yourself. And because that's how I enjoy learning. How do I discern? Because I'm not always going to have the pastor that I can call or this and that. But I always have the Holy Spirit who can help me discern. So here are three ways to choose godly music. First, music should reveal Christ. Music should reveal Christ. Does it draw your thoughts to him? When you're listening to the music, what are you thinking about? And you'll find all of these things you have to do on purpose. You'll not just accidentally worship God through your music. All of us we go to church every week. We've been in church. We sing the songs. And sometimes when we sing the songs, our thoughts are not really going to Christ. And it's not always the music's fault. Sometimes we have not purposed in our heart to worship God through the music. John 12:32 talks about that Jesus will draw all men to himself, right? Jesus draws, and music should draw our attention, our thoughts. In fact, eventually it should draw our actions toward God himself. Because remember, everything we say about music from here, we have to go back to the first point of what is music. Music is God's gift to reflect his glory. In light of music being God's gift to us to reflect his glory, these are the principles we follow. So music should reveal Christ. Next, music should bring praise to God. And the question you can ask yourself, does my music inspire worship? Now, of course, we know music is not the only place to worship God. In fact, some people, that's the way our Christianity is. The only time we say what we believe is worship is when we sing. Worship should become a lifestyle. Worship is in my daily thought life. Worship is in loving my neighbors and loving my enemies and forgiving 70 times 7. Worship is in the way I treated my coworkers today. Worship is in the way I treated my schoolmates, my peers today. That's all a part of worship. Ephesians 5:19, that part of making melody, it means a song of praise to God. Psalm 29 verse 2 tells us to worship the Lord. So music should bring praise to God. In the end, if music brings praise to me, You know, you can have two people singing the same song.
Yeah.
And one of them, the way and their heart in singing that song, the music is bringing worship to themselves. Where the other one, the music is bringing worship to God. It's the same song, the same lyrics, maybe even the same instrument. But music and worship, of course, we know ultimately comes from the heart, and it comes from our biblical principles. So it should bring praise to God. A musician of old wrote that the aim of music should be the glory of God and the refreshment of the Spirit.
Amen.
And I like, that's not a Bible verse, that's a man's working definition, but I like that. All music should, the aim, what does it mean to aim? To aim means to point at something.
Yeah.
If you're playing football and you're a striker, you want to aim for the goal.
Yeah.
If you do not aim for the goal, you're probably not going to hit it. The aim of music, that means the way I aim, when I'm singing my music, I want to aim towards the correct thing, and that would be to bring praise to God.
Yeah.
The glory of God and the refreshment of the Spirit. And by the way, when you glorify God, you'll definitely refresh your spirit.
Yeah.
Many of us, we focus on our spirit before we focus on glorifying God. And you'll find when David, in the book of Psalms, oftentimes his soul was automatically refreshed when he began to glorify God. Instead of going backwards, where we're always looking for our own refreshment. And I'm not saying refreshment is wrong of our spirit. You know, we had a bad week, so we come to church and we're seeking for someone to refresh our spirit. In reality, we should come to church and seek to glorify God. And when we glorify God, I promise you, your spirit will definitely automatically be refreshed. And the third thing for choosing godly music, or which music should we listen to, is music should edify. So does it build your faith? So these are three questions, and I don't want to take too much more time on this part. Does it draw your thoughts to Christ? Does it inspire worship? And does it build your faith? So you should not have to come to your pastor every day, though I'm not saying it's a bad thing, and your counselors will want to advise you on music, but you need to, over time, learn to discern for yourself. And these three things will help you discern. Does it draw my thoughts to God? Does it inspire worship? And does it build my faith?
Yeah.
Does it build my faith? So those are three ways I think we could say this is what music is, and this is what type of music we should listen to.
See you on the next episode. Thank you.